everyone. Welcome to another episode of Creating a Village, the podcast where we help you prepare for life by having conversations with everyday people. So, hi, Miss Denise. How are you today?
Hello, I am great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm really excited for this conversation today. So, can you introduce yourself to the audience and what you do?
Okay. Well, my name is Denise Marrow. Do we use last names? Okay. My name is Denise Marrow, and by career, I'm an educator. I have been an educator for 23 years, always on the elementary level. But maybe 2019, I started a not-for-profit for high schoolers and middle schoolers with special needs. And what it entailed is giving STEM workshops to those individuals because I am aware that in the school system, school setting, they do not have, they have adaptive art, adaptive PE, and maybe adaptive music. But when
Mm,
it comes down to the math and the sciences and things like that, I'm sure they have different things in their curriculum. But I wanted people in my community or in that community as well to be exposed to adaptive science. So I started that program. It's called S.O.R.T.E, S-O-R-T-E, and it
okay.
stands for Share Our Rise to Excellence. Um, I
Oh,
am originally from Cleveland, Ohio. But I moved to Atlanta to
okay.
go to college. I went to Clark Atlanta University, CAU,
Yeah.
and I have two children, and I have my oldest son. He has Down syndrome, and hence the reason for me starting that program, of course. And then I have a younger son that is 15 years old.
Okay, cool. Wow, that's a beautiful journey. I especially love how like you took what you were seeing around you to start this nonprofit because the last week of July I went to a conference. It was called the Podcast Summit, and I
Right.
met another educator, or she used to be in education,
Uh
but
huh.
she also, well, not also, but she branched out of it because she was seeing how there wasn't much she could change within the system, but
Mhm.
she was making it a point to say a lot of the times with curriculum, if someone has special needs, they usually take them out of the classroom setting to try to teach them. But she's saying it that kind of hinders like their interaction with their classmates and stuff like that. So I think that's really important to provide them with a learning environment where they can still engage with their classmates while they're learning those types of skills.
Right. That's so true because my son actually is in a self-contained classroom. It's called a multi-grades.
Mhm.
So he has Down syndrome, and his category, and I'm doing air quotes, is considered
Yeah.
moderate intellectual disability. But he
Mm.
actually um, he goes to classes and different activities because of my advocacy. They
Yeah.
teachers do tend to keep the kids there because they're labeled or whatever to be there. And of course I don't believe in labels, but I'm
Mhm.
using that for a layman's term. And I'm the type, no, he needs to do this. So my son, last when he was in middle school, I'll say he's in the 11th now, he's just started 11th grade. When he was in the 8th grade, he was the conductor for the holiday band. So that was something that his
Oh.
teacher took him to the music class. He went to the regular music class,
Mhm.
and the instructor there, or the teacher there, gave Brent that opportunity to direct during the holiday performance. He also in middle school was voted Mr. Seventh Grade on his own merit. He
Aw.
um
Period.
he campaigned. He wore um handed out those silicone bracelets with his name on it. We had posters, we had
Mhm.
t-shirts. I mean, we campaigned. And because my son
Yeah.
is he has limited communication. I don't want to say nonverbal because he can't speak, but he has limited communication.
Mhm.
So all those things spoke for him. And my son is very personable and social, and everybody knows Brent. Everybody knows who he is. And when
Yeah.
they called his name, we didn't know. And when they called it was three young fellas that was running for that position for homecoming king
Mhm.
for that grade. And when they called my baby's name, I was just screaming because he deserved it. And you could hear like the people behind me, they was like, oh,
Yeah.
Brent got it. Brent got it. So it's the exposure. It's not just like what you were talking about. When you
Yes.
expose them to things, just because they were labeled with something does not mean they cannot do it. And he is a prime example of,
Mm.
I may not be in a regular classroom, or I may not be able to drive, when I'm 16 or whatever, but
Yeah.
my mom exposed me to everything, and I treat both of my kids the same. So, if he does it and didn't win, then, he was exposed to it. You never know unless you expose them to it. Don't count them out before they have a chance to
Yeah.
succeed or not succeed. So, I mean, he's great. And even he swims in the Special Olympics. He has maybe 8 gold medals. He swims the 25 meter, the 50 meter,
Oh, wow.
so again, the
Congratulations.
exposure. I mean, I don't even swim. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that I'm an adult, but I don't swim. He swims in 12 feet of water,
Yeah.
but I started at an early age,
Wow.
him and his brother. Like I said, I treat them both the same. I may have a little more
Mm.
patience with my oldest son because of his ability, but he knows, but I do have
Yeah.
just a little bit more patience. And the thing about it is with him winning Mr. Seventh grade, I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. It wasn't like the flyer came in the book bag or anything like that. So it's kind of the school
Yeah.
actually didn't even cater to them as well. The school didn't do that. I was picking them up and I heard the
Yeah.
announcements and they said something about get your homecoming application. And I asked his teacher, who was very, very hands on. The classroom was homogeneous, so it was all boys, and he really took care of those
Mhm.
boys. The teacher did. And when I heard the announcement, I asked the teacher, I said, "What is this about homecoming?" He said, "I'll find out tomorrow." And sure enough, when I picked him up the next day, he had the application in there. He said Brent would need 2 recommendations. He said we'll handle that tomorrow, and just okay. Well, because my thing is, why count him out? It's open. Yes, it's open to everybody, but my son
Yeah.
can't say, "Hey, I want to do this." So it's up to the teacher, of course, or the parent to be that advocate and say, "I want my child to participate in this. I want my child."
Mm.
So, and he did, and he participated, and he won. So I don't know if that was the first in the
Wow.
history of that school or whatever. I don't know. I didn't bother to ask, but he won on his own merit,
Yeah.
and that shows that um, they need the same opportunities as the other students, in the school in life.
It's funny that you're talking about homecoming because my younger sister, she's 5 years younger than me. She has mild autism,
Okay,
and so currently they're doing homecoming elections. Like I just got off the phone with her earlier, and she was telling me about her
nice.
day. She was saying, "Oh, people had candy and they were passing out stuff," and just growing up, I could already kind of see the difference between like how I was raised or like how I interacted in school versus my sister.
Mhm,
Because a lot of the times, um, my sister doesn't do like after school activities, or
mhm,
I don't know exactly how Credit Scott King works, but I would ask my mom, "Oh, like how come Joy isn't doing dance when they would have the showcases or something?" And she says, "Oh, she has tutoring during those times that they would allot for that."
okay.
And I was just talking to my mom about this recently. I was thinking, well, if anything, maybe we should try finding places for her to go after school hours.
Mhm,
Because a lot of the times my sister goes to school and then she comes home and she doesn't have that interactive thing that just comes with learning those new skills. Because my
right.
sister has transferred a lot of schools because of just the special needs departments that aren't allocated for
Okay.
um, because at the beginning of this school year, she was gonna go to a a school that had like a vocational program in it. Yeah, I think it was like a private school, but And she was like doing her first week there, and it was really small class. I think there were only probably 6 students in the whole class.
Oh, okay.
But then her old school ended up calling my mom, and it was a teacher saying, "Hey, I can't wait to meet Joy. I noticed she hasn't been here for the first 2 days." And my mom was like, "Well, they told me the program wouldn't be able to support her anymore." And they had hired a teacher specifically for my sister
Oh,
now. And they're
wow.
like, "No, come back, come get all these things." Yeah, and yesterday they gave my sister like a program letter for vocational schools, so like
Mhm.
that specializes in special needs, so that she can be able to drive and be able like basically guaranteed a job afterwards. So I think
Nice.
it's really important for these programs to come about where they're reaching out to the different areas too, for the people who
Right.
don't have immediate access, because one of the schools they were thinking about going to was $40,000. That's the price of a college.
Right, right,
So just for
right.
high school,
And that's
yeah, I
why
think that's
I
like super important.
and that's why I started the S.O.R.T.E program over on my side of town because there wasn't anything there. You know, they did have programs, or they do
Mm,
have programs, but they're on the other side and they cost like
yeah.
$500 or whatever. But, you know, my program was free. I had volunteers to help, you
Mm,
know, the students while they were there, but it's I guess it's twofold. One, sometimes parents don't know what's there for them to take advantage of. And then two, sometimes
yeah.
community wise, it's nothing there. But then number three, those programs from the beginning, they're hard to get in, meaning there's a wait list or you don't qualify for one, you know, small little thing. So you have to be, um, let me see, you have to be on it basically. You have to make sure that you're
Yeah.
taking advantage or doing the research for all the different programs, you know, even if it's just Googling Georgia programs for people with special needs or whatever. You just have to make sure
Mhm.
because some programs there's a wait list for 2 years and, you know, you're like, what? You know, so there are a lot of people that take advantage of it, but if you don't know, you don't know to, you know, do it ahead of time
Yeah.
to get on those lists or to take advantage of what is being offered. So I'm in the elementary arena for my career, and I make
Mhm.
sure that the students also are aware of the different abilities of the people in the school or anybody that they see at
Yes.
Target or in the community that they go
Mhm.
to because um, when I was in school, I really didn't see individuals that may have had, you know, a special need or, you know, we just knew that one person back then they called it LD, learning disability, you know, that and that was the label. That was it, LD. But now you have behavior disorder, Down syndrome, Asperger's, autism. You know, you have a lot of
Mhm.
different categories that some people are placed in. So what I like to do with um Exceptional Children's Week is in March, and it's a time where
Yeah.
supposedly schools are learning about honoring and empathizing with, you know, individuals with special needs. So what I do during that
Mhm.
time is I set up a program in the media center, and I because I think it's important for people to feel like or try to feel like what a person feels like that has this different ability than them instead of
Yeah.
staring or laughing or not willing to help because you're scared, you know, type
Mhm.
thing. And so what I do is I have kind of like a vendor event per se, but I have different tables set up. And each table caters to different abilities. And notice I'm saying abilities and not disabilities. So, catering to
Yeah.
different abilities. So, let's say the first table is there's a book there, there's a little reading passage on one pager about the ability and for an
Mhm.
example, somebody that might be blind or, you know, not good sight, you know, not good sighted. And they'll
Yeah.
have the blurb about the ability. And then at the table, I will have a pair of sunglasses and I'll have a book there. And on the sunglasses, I smear Vaseline.
Mm.
And so I'll have the kid come to the table, they read what it is, and I'll say, put the glasses on and try to read from this book. So of course, it's dark and it's blurry because it's sunglasses and
Yeah.
Vaseline. So when the student is trying to read it, of course, it's hard for them to read it because of that. And I tell them, well, this is how someone who may have, color blindness or blind or
Mm.
whatever, this is how they feel. So you have that
Yeah.
feeling or that empathy, like, oh my God, this is horrible. That they're straining their eyes trying to see, or they just can't see. I mean, even like I tell my kids, I wear glasses, so that means I have a special need as well. The doctor may not have diagnosed me with anything at birth, but I wear glasses, so that's a special need. So each individual table has things where they can see what the student is. Another one of my favorites to show is I have the students put marshmallows in their mouth, and then I try to get
Mm.
them to read something. And then they'll, of course, with food in your mouth, or you can't, speak
Yeah.
well. And so this will be somebody that has a speech delay, or maybe somebody that has a stuttering issue because they can't move their tongue, the proper way up and down to form the word. So again, this is them seeing how empathizing with somebody who stutters or can't speak or limited communication. So I have maybe like 8 of those around, and they can go to each table, just to see how it feels, and maybe that'll give them a little more compassion in their heart, or like I say, empathize with them when they see an adult, a child, a person, or somebody in a wheelchair. Oh, let me help and open the door, instead of just sitting there watching them. It'll give them like, oh, they really need help,
Yeah.
that type of thing. And it starts at any age. So that's
Mhm.
my thing that I love to do when I have that little workshop, for the kids, so they can learn about empathy.
That's really creative because when we initially met, we met in an AI class,
Hmm.
and you were talking about how you teach people how to empathize
Right,
with people who may have some different abilities. I
right.
was I was wondering how you did that, and that's actually really cool. Like to actually physically put them in those shoes.
Yes.
So that's really nice. Are there any other ways? So if someone isn't able to make it to those type of workshops, are there any other ways that you would suggest for them to make an effort?
I would say, honestly, I think nowadays someone knows at least one person with an ability that is not considered normal. Whether it's
Mhm.
someone that walks with a cane, someone that can't speak, someone that can't see, someone that may be on the spectrum or anything. And I would say have that conversation. Or even if, like I said, you see
Mm.
someone, help, ask them, do you need help? I see all the time, I see an elderly person, and they're in the chair that you get from the store, and they're trying to put their groceries in their trunk of their car, and I always ask, do you need help? I gotta sneeze. Do you need help? Or just be more conscious of people and how their behavior, and just ask them, do you need help? Is it something that I can do for you? Or that person, have
Mm.
that conversation with that person that or if you want to learn more information, go to the library. There are a lot of books are
Yeah.
on they have books on social emotional learning, and I think that
Mm.
intertwines with empathy. So they can do some reading on that, whether it's an audio book or go to a class, because a lot of people are social emotional learning specialists. So they can speak to,
Okay.
someone. How can I be that person? How can I be that advocate? Because I think in my
Mm.
eyes, even if I did not have a son with special needs, I will still be that advocate, because
Yeah.
I see children all the time that some parents, like I stated before, just don't know what to do. Some parents are embarrassed. I see that in the school system where
Mhm.
when you see kids going from school to school to school, the parent is embarrassed because they don't want to have that conversation that something may be wrong, with their kid, or their child may need additional assistance and not be in the regular classroom, which is doing the child a disservice, because if they're not getting personal attention, like how you said your sister had that one-on-one person with her, if they're not getting that assistance, then that means that person is falling behind and further behind if nobody is saying anything, and if mom or dad or
Yeah.
whoever the caregiver is not advocating for them, like something is wrong, they're not reading on the level, or they're not saying words. I mean, because we have this checklist, I'm gonna call it, that supposedly
Mm.
by this age you're supposed to do this, by this age you're supposed to do this. And of course, I have two different kids, and they both did things on different levels and at different times, different ages.
Mhm.
And for me, I just use those as a guide. I don't use it as the Bible per se. I don't but
Yeah.
you look at your kids and you know whether something is going on, or you need to see the pediatrician about something's not right. They're not feeding themselves, or every time they feed themselves, they push the food out, or whatever the case is. So someone who does not, to go back to your question, someone who does not cannot come to those things, I would say reading, listening to podcasts like this, talking to individuals that um, that may have a special need, is and say, well, what can I do to help? Or if I see someone in the store, at the mall, at church, where I go, how can I be
Mhm.
of service? Because that's what it is. You're being a servant. You're called to be a servant, and be a helper, to someone that cannot do for themselves. So I would just say be more aware consciously by visually looking and noticing, individuals that may need assistance, and then take it from there, having a conversation, reading books,
Yeah.
and just looking at yourself to make sure you're compassionate, because everybody does not have the empathy. I'm gonna say
Mhm.
gene, for lack of a better term. Everybody does not know how to do it. Or, you see a lot of people that say, like, if we have this conversation, and you tell me something terrible, whatever, and I start to cry, because I empathize with people. But somebody else that you had this conversation, yes, they'll say, oh my God, that's terrible, that's bad. But that's showing consideration. But empathizing mean that you really feel what this person is feeling, and you take on the
Yeah.
feelings of whatever this situation is. Everybody does not have that, and you don't want to necessarily force that on people, because
Mm.
it will come out for it. And all this is my opinion, and it may not come out
Yeah.
the right way, if that makes sense. I think
Well,
everybody.
oh,
Go ahead.
uh,
Oh, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, to that point, I was gonna ask, when it comes to asking someone if they need help or assistance, how
Hmm.
can people make sure you're doing that respectfully and not kind of, to your point, like patronizing or
Mhm,
just
mhm.
not in an authentic way?
Right, right. I always start off with a greeting. Like, you don't just come and say, "Oh, let me
Mm.
help you with these groceries. Let me help you whatever. Hey, how you doing today?" And
Yeah.
if they speak, "Do you need some help? You got it?" Or whatever. You have to have that conversation. And that's a lot of things what we don't do. We don't
Mhm.
open our mouths, and we don't have that conversation. But always start, with the greeting. You're letting the person know, "Oh, this person sees me. This person may be interested in helping me. Let me listen. This may not be somebody that's trying to hurt me, but somebody that's trying to help me."
Mm.
you know but that's how I approach it, with the hello, how you doing,
Yeah.
do you need some help, hey, you need some help, and always with a tone of um not monotone, I guess I can say, a tone of where that you're sincere, with it, not, you need some
Yeah.
help, like, oh, they gonna bother me, I'm late. But not that at all, because nobody if somebody came approach me like that, I'm like, no, I got it, because they're coming at you with negativity, and I'm very
Yeah.
conscious about my space. I only need positivity in my space. So, like I said, I'll even, I tell my son, if we see someone coming out, well, of course, he's a gentleman, hold the door, or ask them if they need help. But I think it starts with a conversation of saying, excuse me, hello, how you doing, oh, I see you, you
Mm.
need some assistance, ma'am, that type of thing. But not just bombarding yourself with him. Like my son, he loves to hug. He's 17 and he loves to
Yeah.
hug. And but again, he can't necessarily verbalize to someone that he wants a hug. He knows how to say, I want hug, please, but that's after the fact. He'll ask after the fact, but he may try to
Yeah.
run up to someone or just give them a hug, or he's saying hi or whatever, but in his instance he can't say whatever. And then so I'm his advocate, and I'll say he wants a hug if
Mhm.
that's okay. So I ask them, because if he runs up to someone, they may think that he's trying to hurt them, or they don't know, because it's like, oh my God, who is this running up to me?
Yeah.
Which I get. But
Mhm.
and two, to when he was younger, he's done this all his life. And when he was younger, I tried to stop it, because my thing is, he doesn't know a stranger. So I didn't want
Mhm.
people to take advantage, or I didn't know how people, or him, to do that when I'm not around or someone's not around, to say, hey, come back, or whatever the case. But he used to run up to people. But now at this age, I speak for him and I say, he wants a hug if that's okay. If they say no, I was like, okay, Brent, she said no, So some people, they can't tell you also if they need assistance. So you have to look and see,
Yeah.
if somebody is a elderly, or someone that can't help, and they're by themselves. You may just have to take the rein. Oh, you're gonna help, or I'm gonna help you, sir. Let me, do this for you. Offer it and do it, if they're not able to verbalize that yes or no, that they don't want your assistance. So it's twofold, and it's I don't want to say it's hard, but once you become that person, it's second nature, that you notice it, all
Mm.
the time.
It's a
Like, oh,
conscious effort.
that's right. That's right. So it's something that's genuine, it's natural, and like I said, my son does it, whether they're kids, adults, elderly, nobody is everybody, like I said, everybody
Mhm.
needs help, especially now and nowadays. I took care of my dad. Um, let me see, over a year ago, my dad had dementia. So I was his caregiver.
Okay.
And when it came down to when he was getting ill and his dementia was progressing fast, he wasn't talking. He wasn't speaking. So I had to,
Mhm.
be that person for him, to talk at the doctor, to, Dad, are you in pain? Or, to have that conversation and know the signals or the signs of,
Yeah.
what he needed and what he didn't need. But again, it came second
Mhm.
nature. And if people just take the time to look at people instead of being on the phone, or whatever, take the
Yeah.
time to look at people and see if someone needs help, or, sometimes somebody just needs a hello, good morning, how you doing? That eye contact, you know, and
Yeah.
like with a lot of people, when my son hugs people, they'll say, oh, I needed that today. How did you know I needed a hug? So you never know who needs that. And that's his way of helping empathy. He's showing empathy to other
Yes.
people. So you never know what people need, or how you can help somebody, until you be conscious where you are, the grocery store,
Mhm.
even in the car, people like the mean mug. You at the light, you can say, "Hey, how you doing? Hi."
Yeah.
Nobody's trying to flirt or talk. It's just a, hey, you made eye contact with somebody. Hello, and you never know if that
Yeah.
made somebody's day or not. Like, wow, nobody said good morning, or I just had some bad news, and now I have somebody smiling at me. That may make them feel, a little better. So I think as a
Mhm.
people,
Yeah.
we just need to be more conscious of how we're treating other people, and just be more aware of what's going on
Mm.
in our surroundings, to see if we need to be of assistance to someone else.
I I re ugh, I really I agree so much with what you just said,
Mm.
because I really do feel like smiles, just a little wave, a nod even, can go
Mhm.
such a long way for people. To your point of being aware of others and just kind of gauging what they need, do you have any advice, I could say, for parents or caretakers, um, of those who have different abilities?
Hey, sorry to interrupt this great episode, but this episode is so great that it has a part two. You can hear the answer to this question and much more on episode 12, part 2, that you can go listen to right now. You don't have to wait a whole nother week. You can go listen to it right now. So be sure to go do that. Also, don't forget that in the description and in the show notes are resources talked about in this episode. So you can find all the resources from both part 1 and part 2 in the description. So be sure to check them out. And also, like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying this content. And let us know what else you would like to hear. All right, thank you for tuning in, and go watch part 2 right now. Bye.